All right, well, let's put it in drive.
I'm ready.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Road Noise. And it's good middle of summer here in West Michigan, and it's a beautiful time to be out and about. Hope you're enjoying the weather and enjoying God's creation all around. And Dad and I, hey, we're once a week just hopping on camera and a mic here and just kind of reflecting on God's goodness over the years. And last week, Dad, you kind of left us in a cliffhanger, or you mentioned there's going to be part two. So I'm looking forward to where we're going with that one today.
Yeah, you talk about enjoying the summer. I don't want to make anybody mad, but in my opinion, it's too hot.
Too hot. Yeah.
Too hot. Yeah, so those of you that are watching or listening and enjoy the hot weather, yes, I'm sure you are enjoying this, but too hot for me. Well, speaking of being too hot, part two, we'll kind of pick up where we left off last week. Let's head to Florida. I cannot imagine what the temperature is like in Florida today. I haven't looked, but I'm guessing it's probably hotter than it is here in Michigan. But on this particular trip, it's probably February that I was down there and had been doing meetings in several different churches. And I think this might have even been the time when I shared about leaving the rabbit in the park that we talked about a couple of
Yep.
3 weeks ago, whenever that was.
Yep.
This might have been on that same tour. But here we go. I just had done a program at a church in the Orlando area on one particular night. I don't even remember what day of the week it was, but because I'm doing programs every day of the week. But anyway, so I was at a church in the Orlando area on one night, stayed in Orlando with a friend that I've known for years that was still living in Orlando at that time. And so I'd stayed at his house that night and left fairly early the next morning because I had to be in Miami that night. And it's about a 4.5 hour drive from Orlando to Miami. But I really don't know my way out of Orlando. I really don't know my way around Miami. And so I'm leaving myself plenty of time so I can drive to Miami, find this church that I'm supposed to be at, and be ready that night. So I leave. I'm headed south. I'm on the toll road, I guess it is there in Florida, um, headed down to Miami. And this was real shortly after cell phones had become popular, and I actually had one. And I'm about an hour or so south of Orlando, and my phone rang. Okay, so I answered it. Yeah, back then it didn't seem to be a big deal to talk on the phone while you're driving. They've since found out that that's not real safe. But anyway, so I answer the phone while I'm driving, and it's the program director from a Christian television station in Orlando. And I don't know how it happened, but she had gotten a message saying that had been at another church or had been at a church in Orlando the night before and had done gospel magic and juggling and so forth. And so she was calling to see if she could set up an interview with me, um, while I'm still in town. I told her, I said, I'm not in town. I says, I'm on the road right now. I'm doing a program at a church in Miami tonight. She says, could we do the interview tomorrow? I says, well, depending on what time, because tomorrow night I have to be in Jacksonville at a church there. Well, Jacksonville's what, 2.5 hours or so north of Orlando. And she said, we do the taping um, first thing in the morning. You'd have to be at the station at 9 o'clock. I'm thinking, okay, if I'm at the station at 9 in the morning, we record this interview. Hey, it's only 2.5 hours from Orlando on to Jacksonville, and I don't have to be there at that church until that evening. And so, yeah, I guess I can do that. So she said, I'll send you directions on how to find the station. Okay. So we hang up. I get to Miami, find the church, do my thing there that night. Um, they actually put me up in a hotel. And so I stayed in a hotel that night. And I think I wrote a road noise story about that too. But I'm going to skip that. But that hotel was a story, an adventure all of its own. I wished I would have just slept in the van. But anyway, I've got to get up early the next morning because I've got a 4.5 hour drive from Miami back to Orlando, and I've got to be at the station at 9 o'clock in the morning. And so when I got up that morning, I mean, like I said, it was an early morning for me. And I don't remember if the hotel had breakfast or not, but I know I didn't eat breakfast there. Like I said, this whole hotel was an adventure on its own. And so I just got up and hit the road. So 4.5 hours later, I'm getting into the Orlando area, and I'd been given directions to get off the toll road at such and such exit number. Okay, so I'm looking for that and didn't have GPS or anything at this time. And I didn't see that exit number. And it's like, okay, I guess I keep going. I mean, there's no place to get off. And I come to the next exit, and that number was larger or smaller, whichever it was, different than the one that I was supposed to get off at. So I'm thinking, I had to have passed it. So I'm going to go ahead and get off at this exit, turn around and go back, and hopefully I'll find the exit I'm supposed to take. Well, anyway, so I get off, and now I've got to kind of make this U-turn thing and then get right back on the toll road again. And so as I'm making that maneuver, I go past a restaurant that had a sign up. Now, this will kind of date how long ago it was. It said that they had a buffet, all you can eat buffet for $4.99. And so as I'm looking to get back on the freeway, I'm thinking, wow, $4.99, all you can eat buffet. I haven't had any breakfast yet. By the time we do this taping, it's probably going to be about noon when I get out of the station. I'm going to be ready for something to eat. I know how to get back here. So my plan was I'm going to go back to this restaurant that has this $4.99 buffet. I mean, I recognize the deal when I see it. So I get back on the interstate or the toll road, and as I'm headed back, there's an exit. The next exit that I actually came to had the name of the road that I was supposed to get off on. The exit number was different. I'm headed a different direction, but it's the right road. So I went ahead and took that exit, and from there on, the directions to the station were perfect. But I got there about 15 minutes after 9. Those of you that know me know that I seldom show up late. But I was about 15 minutes late getting to the station, and they're like, no, that's no big deal. We got everything set up. We're going to send you down the hallway here to the makeup room. Makeup? I don't know. Yeah, you got to have makeup for television. Well, anyway, so I told them, what had happened. And the lady at the checkout there where you check into the station, she said, oh, I can't believe they sent you that direction. She said, they redid the freeway about a year ago and they took that exit out. You can't get off on this road headed, what direction was that? Headed west anymore. Okay, well, that explains why I didn't find it, which explains why I had to go down and turn around. Anyway, so she apologized for the directions being wrong and explained why they were wrong, and that all makes sense. All right, so I head to the makeup room. They do their number on me, put me in front of the lights, and this person is to do the interview. And of course, she wants me to do some magic and some juggling. So I had carried that stuff in with me. So I'd be ready. Anyway, so we do all that, do the filming. They are happy with the take. We had to do a couple things over, but they'll edit all that out. And then it's going to be shown later that night. and then they show it a couple times later in the week and so forth. And not that it matters, but I'm pretty sure they sent me a copy of that. Don't ask to see it. I'm sure it was on VHS tape back then, whatever they sent. And if they did send it, I have no idea where it's at anymore, but I'd sure like to see it. So, anyway, I'm done taping. They're going to be showing it later tonight. I can leave. Well, guess where I'm headed? I'm getting back on that toll road. I'm going one more exit west. I'm getting off where I got off earlier, and I'm headed back to that restaurant that has the $4.99 all you can eat buffet. I'm hungry. So I walk in there and they're going to seat me. This, what do you call it? I don't know if she's the waitress or whoever it is. I mean, going to seat me at my table. All right, I'm all by myself, so it's just a table for one. So she's going to put me kind of towards the back, which is fine with me. But I'm walking past several other tables to get there, following this gal. And I walked right past a table that had four guys sitting at it. And these four guys were all in suit and ties. And they all had name tags on. And as I walked by, I glanced at one of those name tags and it said Pastor, and I don't know what the name was, but I'm thinking, oh, okay, these are four pastors that are having lunch here at this $4.99 restaurant, and I should probably introduce. No, I don't want to introduce myself. I'm too hungry. If I stop at this table, and talk to these four preachers, no, they don't know who I am, and I don't need to know who they are, so I'm just going to walk right on past them. And I'm glad I did. I get to my table, and the gal says, help yourself. Plates are up there. Get a new plate every time you go back. Take your time, so forth. So I start. And as I typically would, and not everybody does, but I bowed my head and I thanked the Lord for the food that I was about to eat. And as I am eating that plate full of food, I'm kind of keeping an eye on these four preachers back at their table. And they were there before I was, and they were already on like their second or third plate, whatever it was, and they had a pile of dirty dishes on the end of the table. But this gal had gone and picked those up and so forth, and the guys were still sitting there talking. Well, the next thing I know, those four guys were gone. Okay. Didn't think anything about it. The gal comes and takes my dirty plate as I had gone back and got another plate. And so there I am with my new plate. And she goes over to clean up and wipe the table where these four preachers were. I'll never forget her name. Her name is Camera. Kind of an unusual name. I hadn't heard that before. I don't want to sound racist or anything, but I'm guessing she was Mexican or Spanish or something. I don't know, just a guess. Nice young lady. Very friendly, she was a good waitress. She had taken care of my dishes and taken care of theirs. And anyway, so she goes over to the table where they were sitting to wipe it down and so forth, get it ready for the next customer. Well, as most waitresses, they work there because they want to get paid. And part of their pay is going to be their tip. And so I'm sure that when she went over that table, she was anxious to get whatever they left. And when I saw what happened, I wanted to burst out laughing. It was so funny until I realized how not funny it was. Because she picked the tip up off the table, and no sooner had picked it up, she threw it back down. I mean, it was as though she had literally picked up the hot potato and it burnt her hand. I mean, she picked it up and instantly right back on the table. And to me, that was funny because, wow, that didn't take long until I realized what it was that she threw on the table. It was a $1 bill. And when I realized what it was, I was embarrassed. 4 preachers sitting at a table leave a $1 tip? I hope she never noticed what their name tags said. I hope they didn't bow their heads and pray. I hope that for some reason she never connected them with being Christ followers. Because what a lousy testimony that was. I wanted to cry. Well, I got out of there before she came back to my table again. I kind of snuck out. I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to say anything to her. But I'll say this. I wanted to bless her. And I wanted to make up for what those 4 guys didn't do. And I left her probably the nicest tip I had ever left anybody up to that point. You see, everything we do and say is telling other people about who Christ is. The way we live, the things we do, the words that come out of our mouth, other people are judging. And I have heard, haven't verified this, but I have heard that the hardest shift that a restaurant has to fill with waitresses or waiters is the Sunday afternoon shift. They don't want to work that shift. Because traditionally, Christians are known for leaving the smallest tips. And if you're working you're working hard. Why would you want to work the Sunday afternoon shift? Take some other shift where the people that are going to leave big tips. As Christians, I think we ought to be generous. After all that God has done for us, after all that Christ did for us, talk about being generous. Given his life? Wow. Folks, we need to be generous too. I think it pleases God when we are generous. And I think it hurts God when we're not. Well, as I thought about that as I was driving on to Jacksonville, the thought crossed my mind that, I wonder if she did see me pray. She might have, I don't know. I wonder if maybe she's going to get home after her shift and head into her room, empty her pockets, dump all of her change and all of her tip money on her bed, sit down on her bed, start to count it, see how much money she made that day. And as she sits there on her bed, she reaches over to the remote and turns on the television. And for whatever reason, this Christian television program comes up. And something catches her eye. There's a guy doing magic and juggling. Wait a minute. That's the guy that was at that table that's the dude that left the tip. The tip that I hope she never forgets. If that happened, I hope that perhaps she has a little better view of what a Christian is like. I didn't leave that tip to be known by her. Like I said, I got out of there before she saw me. But can I leave a tip for you? Be generous when you go to a restaurant. Leave a good tip. And you say, well, Sheldon, how do I know if it was a good tip or not? Let me tell you how you know if it's a good tip or not. If the waitress or the waiter chases you out in the parking lot to thank you, it was a good tip. If that doesn't happen, you might want to increase the tip next time because they will chase you out in the parking lot and thank you if the tip is right. I know a guy that I don't know if he still does it, but at the time that I knew him, he carried a good bit of cash in his pocket all the time. And he and a couple other guys had gone out for supper. And he noticed that there was an 80-some-year-old lady who wasn't waiting on the table that these guys were at, but she was waiting on other tables. And this guy noticed this lady because she was just running back and forth and waiting tables, and he couldn't help but notice her age. And so he flagged her down and had her come over to the table where these guys were at and found out that she was in her 80s and asked her, what are you doing at your age waiting tables? And she shared the story. Basically, she had to work. Well, anyway, he was just curious. And so she left and went back to waiting those tables. But this guy reached in his pocket and he took some money out, counted it, turned to the other guys and said, any of you guys have any cash I could borrow? And at least two of those other guys had a $100 bill. And he asked if he could borrow that $100 bill from them. I mean, they knew this guy and they knew he was good for it. And, he said, I'll pay you back. Because what he wanted was $1,000 cash. And he gave it to that 80-some-year-old waitress. Apparently she died of a heart attack, but at least she had $1,000 to go towards her funeral expenses. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, he gave her $1,000 tip. I'm not that guy, but Lord knows I would love to be that guy someday. What does the Bible tell us? The Bible says that we ought to what? Give, and it shall be given unto you. Luke chapter 6:38. Let's try to make that a good practice. Let's give. Can't outgive God.
Yeah, what a great reminder. What a great story. Just a great reminder that eyes are on you all the time. And what kind of reflection are you giving to those around that are observing and watching your behavior, the words you say, the actions you take? Yeah, what a great reminder. Well, should we
Well,
park it here or you got some dad
yeah,
jokes?
let's park it right here. We really ought to end on a dad joke or something, but what comes to your mind? You got one to leave everybody
Oh,
with, or
I never have jokes top of mind. That is the skill that I just did not get, even though I'm a father of two.
okay, all right, then I'll share this because a friend of mine shared it on Facebook yesterday, and so those of you who are on Facebook, I mean, I saw it from at least two different friends yesterday, so I'm guessing you saw it too. But it said that putting your kids to bed at night is pretty much like robbing a bank. Lay down, roll over, and be quiet.
Yeah,
Pretty much like robbing a bank.
yeah, yeah.
All right, we'll park it here then.
We'll park it here and pick it up again next week.